Iblis was with Allah, right? How can someone not be just awestruck by the whole presence of being in front of Allah?
The basis for our understanding about Iblis, the accursed, is that his pride got the better of him.
I've seen people who will look down on people just because of an accident of birth, that they happen to be born in a certain place.
So, Shaitan was the first racist. If your actions and your intentions are problematic, you can fall into disbelief.
Iblis was with Allah, right? He saw Allah and he tried to become the best in front of him. So I feel like he also had that innate disposition, like the predisposition that made him so I think about his scenario and I think about every other human being. If he just looks at Allah, right, that would change him completely, right? That's like our aim, our goal, to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then now we have this situation on the other side, that where you have Iblis who've seen Allah, he's been in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can someone, any creature, not be just awestruck by the whole presence of being in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So that makes me think, should we think that if we stand in front of Allah, is that going to be something different or not the best experience? I'm just trying to understand that.
The basis for our understanding about Iblis, the accursed, is that his pride got the better of him.
Right.
It's not that he didn't understand who Allah was. It's not that he didn't know who Allah was, but he still placed himself as if he had better knowledge than Allah, better decision making than Allah. And so for him, his pursuit is really all about himself. And if you think about it, sometimes we as humans do this. I'll give an example, right? It's not analogical with Allah, just understand it's an analogy. It's meant to be broken down at some point. When you're with an imam, right, you know that they have more knowledge than you, but they might say something and you might not fully understand it, but you might have a different opinion. You might disagree with it. Even though that the person in front of you is better studied, has better knowledge, has better experiential knowledge, and can probably give you 20 different sources to explain the position that they've come from, and it's more authoritative. And so think of Iblis like this. It is a self-denial. It is a blindness of the heart and a blindness of the mind. And Surah Al-Baqarah tells us this, right? Surah Al-Baqarah tells us that whether Allah guides them or do not guide them, they will not believe. Why? Because they're so invested in themselves, nothing else matters. And that's why the one who gets to see Allah in Jannah, when we get to actually behold Allah as he should be beheld, this is a reward for those who have denied themselves and fully entrusted their affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we will be the people, inshallah, of those whose spiritual maqam or station has risen to the point that we have taqwa. And that's why the first 7 ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah are so important, because it breaks down who will be of the muflihun and those who are cursed and punished by Allah because of the disease in their hearts. And so we need to be of these people mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah.
There are 3 things you said in the beginning of your question. The idea that Iblis had seen Allah.
Yeah, did he see him? Did he see Allah?
This is something that there's no information as far as I'm aware about this, and this is something that is given to us as a blessing in Jannah. Maybe it's sort of a way of sort of trying to emphasize that Iblis was with the angels and had intimate knowledge of Allah in a way that was more than what we have access to, which is reasonable, but it's important that we don't sort of without evidence make these large claims. But yeah, I think the answer in the Quran is very simply arrogance, hasad. I've seen people who will look down on people just because of an accident of birth, that they happen to be born in a certain place, and because there's some idea that they are better in some way. Now, the idea that this doesn't happen just because you're aware of the majesty of the one giving you the command would mean that you are removing the free will of someone to make a choice. So the fact that people has an ability to make a choice means that when they're given an order or a command, they can make a choice either way. But really, it comes down to the arrogance of us all. May Allah protect us from the arrogance.
From this episode, we learn so much about what we need to protect ourselves from. So, Shaitan was the first racist. He thought he was superior because of him being created from fire and Adam being created from clay, from dust. You see, today, how many problems have arisen throughout human history because of this arrogance of feeling superior to somebody else? Because like Dr. Imran just said, being born geographically somewhere here, or having a lighter skin or a narrower nose, something superficial, something that's unimportant. And how many problems has that racism caused? In this is a lesson for us. Do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. And the footsteps of Shaitan was that he became haughty, he became arrogant, and therefore he fell into disbelief. And so this is a huge lesson for us as believers, that arrogance and being haughty and feeling superior is something that we need to battle against ourselves repeatedly and regularly to ensure that we don't end up following the footsteps of Shaitan and fall into disbelief. The other lesson that we can learn from this as well is that, it doesn't matter how strong your iman is in terms of believing in Allah, but if your application of your actions and your intentions are problematic, you can fall into disbelief despite being so close to the Creator. And so this is a real point for us to constantly reflect upon ourselves. Where am I going? What am I thinking? Why am I thinking these things? And what does Allah tell me? What does the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, tell me in terms of how I should be structuring my life and my thoughts and my intentions and my feelings?